Hello, Steeler Nation. Welcome to Stryker's Inside Slant. Unfortunately, we did not win the Battle of Pennsylvania against the Philadelphia Eagles this week in Philly, but it has not changed a damn thing about what I said 3 weeks ago. Beat the Ravens and we win the division. That's it. We still ended up making the playoffs. Congratulations to the Pittsburgh Steelers, making the playoffs still with 3 weeks to go in the season without playing 2 more divisional games, which I didn't think it was going to be decided until at least after the Ravens game. But thanks to Miami and Denver for helping us out a little bit, or Indy for helping us out a little bit and making sure that we got into the playoffs now. So no matter what, we are going to celebrate a second season in January after the Cincy game, no matter what. But the thing is, the Steelers have to take care of business this week against the Baltimore Ravens to ensure they win the division, and then they can even thinking about resting players for the final 2 games of the season, because we are not catching the Chiefs at all. They've clinched, I think the Steelers now with 4 losses. Even if we beat the Chiefs on Christmas Day, they have to lose out for us to tie them at the end of the season, which I just don't see happening. They've been winning every single way, any which way but lose this past couple weeks. So that's just the way it shakes out sometimes. And guys, this is your show. You got any questions or comments, throw them up there. I will get to each and every one of them because that's what I do. I am a live, interactive Pittsburgh Steelers podcast. And what's most important, that we all talk about it and we all know what's going on. First thing I'm going to do first, before I start grabbing the comments, is letting you guys know the injury situation we have lined up. Bunch of injuries came out of this game. Unfortunately, Justin Fields banged up that abdominal on that dive play when he got hit, and we got the personal foul on it. He did not practice today, though today is technically a walkthrough day. So most people with injuries will not play, would not be practicing today no matter what. Patrick Crane was just arrested vet. He's going to be playing. George Pickens still did not play with that hamstring, though I did see him running on the sidelines. Deshaun Elliott at safety, out with his hamstring. Saw him reach down immediately. I'm like, damn, it's his hamstring again, isn't it? He's been banged up with a hamstring already a couple times this year. Hopefully he can work his way back, but I do love me some KZ. Went out in the game. During the game, KZ also did with that head injury, it looked like. Did not finish with concussion protocol. Came back, finished the game. He's not even listed in the injury report. Dante Jackson with his back did not practice. I don't know what it is about Dante Jackson, but that man looks like he gets injured just about every game, but still finds a way to come back and be ready to start for the next one. So I'm optimistic that he'll make his way back, but I do love our depth at corner with still Pierre, with still Trice, with still Sutton being able to come in and help out on those outside plays as well. TJ Watt is the big guy on field, the one that we are all worried about him missing time. And unfortunately, this is a game we can't afford to play without him. He has an ankle injury. Tomlin's optimistic. He said in the presser today, at least, that did not see him walking with a limp. He's optimistic that most of these guys will be able to play this week that we're talking about. Cameron Hayward had a rest this week, and Okunjobi, who missed the past game with his groin, did practice today. The only person listed on the injury report that did practice today was Larry Okunjobi with his groin injury. So I am optimistic that he's able to come back, though I was very happy with what Adams and Loudermilk were able to do, and even Lowry coming in and doing some plays. They were all looking pretty solid on that spot. It didn't look like we got gashed there at all. We did control the run game, oddly enough. On the Baltimore Ravens side of the field, Nelson Aguilar is in concussion protocol. He did not practice. I'll have to watch his practices moving forward to see if he clears protocol. Obviously, you need 1 full practice, and then you have to be symptom-free the next day to clear protocol. So we'll keep an eye out on Nelson Aguilar to see if he can make his way back. Jalen Armour-Davis, the corner, did not practice today, as well as Deontay Johnson, who we'll get to in a second. I'll actually finish off with Deontay Johnson. Those are the only ones that did not practice. Limited today was Adisa Isaac, the linebacker, backup linebacker with a hamstring. Kane, the backup safety with a hamstring as well, was limited. And the starting safety across from Hamilton, Ardarius Washington, was limited today with an ankle. Full practice today out of TJ Tampa, the backup corner. And that was the only full practice. But let's get to Deontay Johnson. Interesting situation in Baltimore. The guy we all love to hate, Deontay Johnson. What's going up with him? Well, turns out Deontay Johnson is now excused from all team activities. He's actually listed on the injury report here as a not practicing personal reasons. So since he is now eliminated from being able to participate in team activities, it looks like the Ravens are willing to waste a roster spot for a player that they do not expect to play for them at all for the rest of this season. That is hilarious to me. I don't know if they'll change their tune if Flowers gets hurt. I don't know if that's the aspect at all. I don't know if they were trying to protect him from getting picked up by KC or the Steelers, which I think both would really want to try to grab him. And at least in that situation, Steelers would be ahead of him on the way, would be ahead of KC on the waiver wire if we're trying to pick him up quickly before he clears. I don't know if he has to clear waivers or not once he's first cut, or if he's just wide open, then anybody can grab him. He might be just wide open. I forget how waivers work during the season. But at least that creates an interesting scenario, and one where I actually had to ask myself that question. Stryker, would you take back Deontay Johnson? 100% without a doubt, my answer is yes. You're crazy, Stryker. Really? This is a guy that used to get 10 to 12 targets a game, 8 to 12 targets a game. This is a guy that could move the chains when we had quarterbacks like Kenny Pickett, Mitchell Trubisky, Duck, frickin' Rudolph throwing. He was the go-to guy in all of those situations. We were winning games because of Deontay Johnson. The guy gets open early and open quickly, moves the chains, and I'd take him back in a heartbeat. However, I don't think the Pittsburgh Steelers would take him back like I would. So to be honest about it, I think once Tomlin's done with a guy, I think you're done. And he has not shown anything in two other organizations that he has also played for this season, Carolina and Baltimore. Both of them don't want anything to do with the guy already. Very shades of Antonio Brown the season that we got rid of him. Vegas got rid of him before he played it down. Then he goes to Patriots. They get rid of him after a couple weeks. Guy is a problem. Now, I don't know if he's the same type of problem. Antonio Brown's off-field stuff was just as bad as his on-field stuff. Just as bad as locker room stuff. Right now, it seems like Deontay Johnson is more of a locker room cancer. I'm trying to think of why it would be. It's probably due to playing time. He thought he was going to come over and get some actual snaps, but they were like, no, we're just going to keep you in case something happens to Flowers. So that is the situation we're at right now with Deontay Johnson moving forward. We got lots to talk about, guys. I'm going to go to you. Obviously, we had a game that we played. We got to talk about the Ravens game. We win, and we are the champions of the North, despite of everything that's happened last week. What's going to happen this week? First man off, Mean Green. Welcome back to the show. Saw you last week, my friend. Let's flush Sunday's game and move forward and beat the Ratbirds and claim another division title. Well said, Mean Green. That's exactly what I want to see this week. Miles, that game sucked, but the officiating sucked. Absolutely right. Absolutely right. So many missed calls. Hell, they had a nice replay that took like a 4 or 5 yard catch away from us. Thanks to them when no one was looking for it, where you weren't able to go back and check on the punt to see that personal foul occurred before the kick, because I could see it over his shoulder. Kick wasn't off yet. That should have been during the play. Steelers should have had a first down on that play instead of giving them the ball inside the 1 or right around the 1 yard line on that last drive. That was a game-changing play as well. So, and also, I think Slay would have been ejected had they taken a look from the back angle. I could see like where the referees were. Nobody could see Slay throwing about and landing about 5 or 6 punches. You see it clearly from the rear angle. Fully expect Slade to get penalized by the league this week. I don't know if you get ejected for a game after it's viewed that you threw a punch in a game that was not called. I don't recall it ever happening before. I'm sure it's happened many times, but that will be an interesting thing to look for moving forward for what's going to be happening for Slay to see his participation with the Eagles coming up. But that would have changed their defensive dynamic considerably if they were without their top corner and we're without our top wide receiver. Might have evened the playing field a little bit. Cheers, Steeler Nation. I'm drinking tonight. I'm drinking a Pennsylvania malt whiskey from Philadelphia, actually. New Liberty Distillery, and it's one I've been to in the past. This is one of these unique style whiskeys that I absolutely love. It's a clean corn flavor to it, which almost gives me like hints of leather, like when you used to go and oil your old baseball gloves and that. That's what this kind of gives me taste of, and I love that feel. It's nice and sweet. Cheers, Steeler Nation, to you, to us, and to forgetting last week and moving forward to this week. Cheers. Damn, that's good. First sip of the night. I have to appreciate it. Miles, draft. We need receivers. Absolutely. I wouldn't be surprised if we got 2 this draft. Also, TJ cemented himself as Defensive Player of the Year, 2 sacks and a forced fumble. Nearly had another forced fumble on his sack on Hurts. Came down just outside of his arm. If he came down on the ball, that ball's on the ground because he did not have it pinned against his body at the time where he came down. So he only kind of barely hit the outside of the ball as he was bringing it into his body. But a hell of a punch out. That punch out was like Mike Tyson's punch out, man. That was a beautiful, beautiful targeted punch straight down on the ball from behind to knock that out, give the Steelers possession and a chance to score, which we ended up getting after our second fumble, which occurred on the special team side of it. So great job with those guys, also forcing another fumble on special teams and recovering it and giving us a chance to score down there, which we probably would have had we not gotten that insane penalty. Miles, I'm bringing back DJ for the playoffs. I said it. It's out there, but drop his ass in the offseason. I'm with you too. I would absolutely take him for the playoffs. There's no he is the best option for us to be able to, move forward in the playoffs with a receiver that we have not replaced. We do not have a 8 to 10 targeted receiver on the X side, which we haven't had in decades. Decades, plural, Steeler Nation. We're talking at least 3 decades. Hell, you can go back to the 70s. I don't think we've missed an X receiver since the 70s. Maybe going from Stallworth and coming back in from the 80s years, we didn't have that great of X receivers till we started getting into Yancey Thigpen, Hines Ward, Antonio Brown. Those X receivers were absolute money. Big players for us. Big players for us. So, yeah, that's big. That's big. I think Graham was one of them, too. Robert. Hey, Stryker. Of course, you take back your boy DJ, but would you rather him than Odell Beckham Jr.? I saw Odell Beckham was available, too. I know the Steelers absolutely loved Odell Beckham Jr. We were looking to try to draft him that year. I know he ended up going, way earlier than we were drafting, probably about 12 spots ahead of we were drafting because he went right in the top 10, like around 8 or 10 or 12, somewhere in that range. But I wouldn't be against taking Odell Beckham. I just know that the drop-off from Odell Beckham's productivity over the past couple of years when he was playing with the Ravens, when they were trying to get him on the field here on his pass team, he's no production. 0 production. Love the talent on the guy. And the guy also plays kind of the same position as Williams and George Pickens. So then we have 3 Z receivers as opposed to an X and a Z. Though I think Odell Beckham would be the best out of all 3 of them if you put them at an X position. So I'm not against it, but Deontay Johnson is an X receiver. He gets open quickly, and I do love him for that. Stryker, a couple minutes left in the last game. Mike Tomlin called unnecessary timeout and then wasted the last 17 seconds of the clock. Are you still holding by your white lie that Mike Tomlin is a great clock manager? Absolutely. Absolutely. Clock management normally comes down to how people score at the end of halves and at the end of games. We generally score at the end of halves, which we did under a minute. If you're scoring under a minute, you're using your clock appropriately. If you're stopping the other team from scoring within that time, you're using your timeouts appropriately. Now, in this past game, they held the ball all the way down the field for 21 freaking plays. None of the timeouts, I don't think, affected us in that respect, but I was questioning why we called the timeout in that situation. It didn't seem like because I think the defense was on the field on the timeout that you're talking about, and I was trying to figure out why we called timeout in that situation. It's not like we were down a man. We were actually, funny enough, we did not call the timeout. We were down a man on the play that T.J. Watt punched the ball out of Hurts. That was 11 on 10. Highsmith was trying to run back onto the field. They called him back off of the field when he knew he should have been out there. And we ended up playing that play a man down and got a turnover on it. So that's a crazy play. But I don't know what happened, what the reason was for that timeout. It was a head scratcher, and I'll give you that. But I'm not saying he does not know how to manage a clock with his record and how good we are at scoring inside the last minute at the end of the half and inside the last minute at the end of games. Miles, I'm going to sick Terrell Austin and his lack of efficiency of being creative and his passing defense. It sucks. You go into third down knowing they will get it. Now, it got really difficult last game too, Miles, when they controlled the ball the entire second half. Our defense was gassed. I also have to give props to the Philadelphia Eagles. I watch a lot of Eagles games. I really like the Eagles. They're my second favorite team, being in the NFC, but I love the Steelers. You know, it's like no way would I ever root for the Eagles at all against the Steelers. But I watch a lot of Eagles games, and this game was the best defensive game I've ever seen them play. I have never seen them this jazzed or this geeked to play defense outside of when they had Dawkins on their team, and they were monsters hitting the NFC Championship game all the time under Andy Reid. That's what this defense looked like. They got geeked up to play the Pittsburgh Steelers. We got their best. And I had not seen that all year from the Eagles. I don't think they would have played like that on a neutral field. I don't think they would have played like that in Pittsburgh. But in Philadelphia on that day, they were up and they were running hard every play. So kudos to them, too, for being able to pull that off. Robert, because Dolphins and Colts lost, Steelers are already in the playoffs. So Bill Cowher would already start playing the backups more. If you beat the Ravens, then we won the division. Why not rest starters last two games? Absolutely. I talked about that at the top of the show, Robert. That's what we're only really playing for this game. If you win this game, rest starters next two games. If you lose this game, I'm with you too. Rest starters. I'm with you. Absolutely think that's a great idea, because if we win this game, we're pretty much locked to a 3 or 4 seed. Doesn't really matter which one we are. If we lose, we're probably going to be the 5 seed. Maybe could drop down to the 4, but most likely would end up being the 5 seed. Rest your starters. I'm completely for that in both scenarios, Robert. I think that is probably the best way, because I knew about it for winning the game, definitely. But now that you're talking about if we lose this game against the Ravens, I'm with you 100%. Absolutely. I think that would be a fantastic idea. Robert, I agree with Miles about Austin's lack of creativity and continuous underperformance with the most talented D, highest paid in history, 3 years straight. Yeah, it sucks, especially when they're on the field the entire time. I thought they played an excellent first half. I thought they still did some good things in the second half. The problem is, as soon as they get gassed, it's like any good defense. They will look bad. They will not only did they not, it hurt to see them get the first downs the way that they did. That 21 play drive was still, it's not like they had any big plays. That was just like, boom, they're just slowly moving the football efficiently. That's what they did. Hell, their first drive when they were on the 2-yard line that they ended up with a field goal, they should have gone tush push on that one. The brotherly shove. They should have gotten another touchdown out of that. I thought we did a pretty good job. Like, I watch a lot of Eagles game. I've watched a lot of defense against the tush push. The Steelers did an awesome job about subbing under the tush push to limit his yardage, stop 2 of them from pushing. But still, they got another down. They pushed it in the next down. But they had a good game plan against it. and they actually attacked it fairly well. I'd like to see them go back up against the Eagles again in a brotherly shove situation, because I think the Steelers actually can stop them in certain situations. So I did like what I saw out of it, even though they got it in. Robert, Philly plays their D less. And so last few years of teams like the Browns and the 49ers, yet their Ds have been better and we have the talent. So problem is coaching. Problem is still some younger players still trying to get up to the speed of it. We've had our injuries in some of the spots, but most of all, coaching has to take some of it. I'm with you on that. I can't just say that coaching is not a part of it. But I think our D has played pretty well this year. I think our D has won us at least 4 games this year, especially early in the year when we had Fields as the quarterback. We needed the defense to be able to play in those situations, Robert. So I did like that. Robert, when the D is underperforming with coaching, that's not just a matter of moving on from Austin or blaming the lower coaches, because Mike T admit it and takes over defensive play calling in games. He can, but I don't think he did under Austin. He did it under previous ones. I'm not sure if he's doing it this year. Tim Burrow, when you say Odell had no production with the Ravens, but the identical thing's true of your boy DJ, then that seems to be a moot point. There were also injuries in Carolina, which stopped him from being on the field. And it's also Odell Beckham has more years. So it's not a moot point. You're talking about 1 year removed from the Pittsburgh Steelers offense for Deontay Johnson. You're talking, let me look up Odell Beckham's stats here quickly, just so we can get an apples to oranges comparison. And you're looking at a guy that hasn't had a productive season since 2019. So, no, I'm not expecting him to be a savior. I'm not expecting him to be productive, because his last 1,000-yard receiving was in 2019. His last season, he was healthy, because most of these seasons, he only played about half a season for all but 2 years. The last time he was fully healthy playing for 2 teams was in 2021. Oh, I guess I can combine those stats. Oh, the stats are combined. When he played for Cleveland and the Rams, he did win a Super Bowl with the Rams, and he was productive in the playoffs with them. I think that was a great pickup by the Rams at that time and needed him for that run. But he had 44 receptions for 537 yards, only 5 touchdowns. All 5 with the Rams, funny enough. Imagine that. He had a better quarterback with in LA than he did for Cleveland. That's definitely it. But had 565 yards in 6 games started for the Ravens. Only played the 1 year with them. Only 3 touchdowns, which is low for him. And then this year, no production whatsoever. 9 receptions, 55 yards, no touchdowns. And I told you, I'm not against that pickup, but I think Deontay Johnson fits us better for what we need out of trying to move the football. Absolutely do. Tim Burrow, because the Chiefs have much less talented team this year than in recent years, and been barely squeaking out wins, Steelers should beat them without Mahomes. I'd hope so. I think at that point of the season, I bet are they even, because there will be 2 games up on Buffalo. Is that where they're at stat wise? Let me check out the schedule here, or the standings, because I know the Bills just dropped another game. So now technically they are 2 games behind Kansas City, but they hold the tiebreak. So Kansas City can't lose out yet, because if they lose out, Bills could technically still find the 1 seed and get that coveted bye. So they could still technically be playing for that 1 seed. Yeah, otherwise you should have been starting to rest Mahomes this week. Yeah, but they'll have to play again until they can get down to the 2-game range. Last game of the season, obviously, Mahomes probably won't play. But we'll have to see what happens this week to see if they're going to sit Mahomes or not. And, guys, I want to go back and give some kudos here, too, and talk about Najee Harris. I know he had the fumble. I know it hurts to see a fumble in that situation. But I want to give him a lot of props on what he's been to this organization. Guy's only lost 4 fumbles in 4 years. That's one of the reasons why I loved him coming out of college, because he never loses fumbles. Hell, one of the fumbles in college, he was held up and had to have it ripped out of his hands after being held up for like 4 or 5 seconds. Play should have been blown dead. They got it ripped out from Oklahoma, I believe, in that game at the end of the game. One of those 4 fumbles I do remember was an end of game scenario where we were trying to score on the last play of the game because time was over. So we had a crazy lateral play. So one of those fumbles is from a crazy lateral play to try to keep the ball moving at the end of the game. So 3 legit fumbles lost his entire career. I think he only has technically 5 fumbles total. 2 of them were recovered, 1 by him. I know that. So 5 total fumbles in his career, only 4 lost. So that's pretty incredible for this guy and how good he is at making, and with as many attempts and carries that he has with the football, he doesn't put it on the ground. Suck to see it, but it's one of the things that I absolutely love about Hayward. Also wanted to talk about Najee. Wanted to talk about Hayward. What do we think, guys? Is Hayward a Hall of Famer? That's the one thing I need to start thinking about. Is Hayward a Hall of Famer? I started looking at his stats. And I'll tell you, his stats really, or at least his inductions into the playoffs changed when we changed him into a defensive lineman from being a defensive end. His stats were good enough in 2014 and 2015 to have been a Pro Bowler as well, which he was not because he was listed as a defensive end and not a defensive tackle. Since he got mentioned as a defensive tackle in 2017, because we have edges outside of him, the guy has been an absolute monster. He made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 straight Pro Bowls from 17 to 22. He was, of course, injured for part of the year last year. Didn't make his Pro Bowl. Didn't have the numbers that he had for that year. But this year, his numbers are back up there again. Within those 6 years of making the Pro Bowl, 3 of those years, all first team All-Pro. 1 of those years, second team All-Pro. Absolutely incredible. Incredible statistics from that guy. Also, Walter Payton Man of the Year. That is an incredible stat that is just as impactful as a Super Bowl. Just as impactful for getting people in the Hall of Fame, because that is rarer than winning a Super Bowl. Only one man in the league gets the Walter Payton Man of the Year award. That's why you get to wear that patch on your jersey. The only patch the Steelers allow on their jersey outside of an owner that passes away. That's what I'm looking at. That is incredible. So this year, he's looking at his 7th Pro Bowl. He's looking at possibly going over 10 sacks again this season. He's at 8 currently. That puts him at 88 and a half sacks total on his career. He is 11 and a half sacks away from a 100-sack career, which would be a shoo-in for a defensive lineman, defensive tackle making a Pro Bowl. Absolutely incredible stats. So one of those things that we weren't thinking about last year, now with this incredible season by Hayward, and if he puts together another season anywhere near this one, he might be at 100 sacks. And that would definitely put him in the Hall of Fame, in my opinion. You guys let me know what you're thinking about that as well. As I pop back to you guys. Miles! Can't wait for Pickens to be back. We need him. Absolutely. Absolutely. I did not know. Now, this is the definition of a wide receiver 1. He's the best receiver on the team, and the offensive passing game does not work without him. It doesn't. I mean, I thought we were doing the right things last game. We were utilizing the tight ends well. We were utilizing the running backs out of the backfield awesomely. I don't know why we didn't do that at all last game. Seemed like we didn't get that to work at all. So that has to work again. That we have to institute that against the Ravens. If we don't, we are dead in the water if we don't have Pickens. But hopefully Pickens can work his way back. Fingers crossed. It's a short week. We play on Saturday this week, people. Corey Frank, how you been, my friend? Exactly, Stryker. People acting like he has 8 or more career. Exactly. 4. Kid is averaging 1 a season. Funny enough, his rookie year, he never put a ball on the ground. That's incredible. He had two fumbles the following year. I believe he lost 1. He had 3 fumbles the following year. I believe he lost 2. 1 this year. Lost. That's it. That's his stats. Absolutely love me, Najee, for that. And that's a reason why I try to retain him. Because he doesn't put him on the ground. No, but sad. Hello, Pamela. Welcome to the show. Jim Burrow, all Steelers talk. Noah Strickland and his sidekick are huge Tomlin fans, but point out it's Tomlin coaching that holds the Steelers back and will hold them back from being true Super Bowl contenders. I don't think it's holding us back. I completely disagree with you there, but I will agree with you that our coaching staff, I wish we had the Philadelphia coaching staff. Their defensive coach is doing a phenomenal job with their players this year. Absolutely, we would be a better team with their defensive coordinator. We would be a better team with their offensive line coach. Talking about how when they have a player that's not working in a position, they're willing to move him to another position to turn them into a great player, or at least a starter with their tackle moving down into guard, which they mentioned many times in the game last week. So those aspects would have been great as opposed to shoehorning Green as a center and not playing him at left guard. Forcing Dotson to be a left guard instead of a right guard, which he was in college. Like, those things could have been fixed pretty freaking quickly with a better offensive line coach, with a better defensive coordinator. Completely agree with that. And Tomlin is starting to make better choices for people he's putting in those spots. I mean, hell, our offensive coordinator was a head coach in this league. They want a coach for Tomlin. People that coach in this league want to come over and play with us. We had that freaking Miami coach that got fired, came over to play with us for that 1-year rental as just a helper. So, like, there's reasons why we should be doing better. I don't know why we're not. I don't know what the terrible decisions obviously are all on Tomlin. I'll give you that 100% for Fichtner and for Canada. 100% owned by Tomlin. Absolutely. I think we moved off of those guys too slowly. Though we did fire our first offensive coordinator, our first coach mid-season. That's the only time I've ever seen us fire a coach mid-season. I think you had to go back to the 50s or 40s when the last coordinator was fired during the season. He was also the coach of the team and took himself off of like coordinator duties just to stay the coach. So it's like, Steelers just don't do that. And I don't know if that's can be on Tomlin, but it's also on our organization for not wanting to rock the boat too during games. Cam is a beast. Absolutely. I'm not the only one who likes Tomlin and respects. He's one of the best at motivating guys during the week, but also see that he's one of the worst coaches on game days. I don't think he's a bad coach on game days, but we will agree to disagree on that. Miles, Steelers are winning a lot of categories in the Pro Bowl. They absolutely are. Yeah, I'm trying to think of let's take a look quickly and see who our Pro Bowl players kind of would line up to be this season. On offense, probably no one. Pickens was the only one with a chance, I think, of making the Pro Bowl on offense. If he gets a chance to make it in. On defense, Cam Hayward, Watt, I think, are shoo-ins. I don't think Minka Fitzpatrick should be in the Pro Bowl. I think he'll get votes. I don't think Joey Porter Jr. will yet, but I still think he's on a right track to start making Pro Bowls here soon. Just love the fire and energy out of that guy, but probably not this year. Boswell's a lock. He's going to be the Pro Bowl kicker this year for the AFC. Waitman, I don't think he's going to make it, though he's doing very well and way above what I thought. He's actually been our best punter that I can even think of. I think stats-wise, he may be our best punter for average currently that we've ever had. And if not, he's right up there. But he's done a great year, especially after Cam going down after game 1. Booming a couple huge punts right before he was lost for the season after getting run into with no freaking penalty. Hated that play. Absolutely hated that play. Yeah, so we got a chance of having a couple guys here in the Pro Bowl. Absolutely. Rather have them be playing in the Super Bowl, but we'll see where they end up. Miles, what was it with all of our missed tackles? It was awful. Gassed. In that second half, they were done. They were playing tired as hell. I didn't like seeing those missed tackles in the first half either. They have some good playmakers. That's also the difference. Like, look at their playmakers. They got Saquon frickin' Barkley. And their other running back was fast as hell. They got great receivers, Smith and Brown. Great receivers that have wiggle, that can make people miss. That's what it's like to play a team that has multiple talent. And we used to have that kind of talent with the Killer Bees. We don't have that talent this year. We're starting to build toward it. We got Pickens. Pickens really our only guy. Every once in a while, boomer bust Austin will make a play and take a lid off or have a catch and run, a big catch and run. But we need to see, I want to see more consistency out of Austin to be able to make those plays. If we had a better X receiver, I think he'd get a bigger chance from that slot position to make those plays. Miles, I'm not scared of the Ravens. I'm not scared of their offensive weapons. Neither am I. We actually played the Philadelphia Eagles the same way we played the Ravens. We shut down the running game. We were forcing Hurts to beat us. We did not expect Hurts to have that game when his 2 previous games, he was only right around 155 yards a game. Absolutely, that was the right game plan going into it. Hurts went sick house. Hurts played above what he plays, and I've seen him play a lot of games. That was one of his best games. Like, it took one of Hurts' best games ever and their defense playing perfect for them to beat us. And it wasn't that bad of a beat when I watched it on replay. It really wasn't. There's a couple calls here and there that went against the Steelers that would have made the game a hell of a lot closer. And a couple of momentum killers. We would have had more plays in the second half if they called that personal foul correctly on the punt occurring before the kick than after the kick. So those types of aspects are things that can change games. Absolutely can change games. But the biggest game changer in that game ended up being the fumble. We were driving. We were already in Baugh's range, only down by 6. And we had that bad fumble off the toss. So it hurts, but that's the way it went. And that's the way the game of football is played. Football isn't perfect, ladies and gentlemen. And as I researched, if you lose a turnover battle, you usually lose games, but the Steelers won the turnover battle this game, 2-1. Usually you win games when you win the turnover battle. Miles, I told everyone I worked with the Steelers were going to the Super Bowl and made wagers. Being wrong would be the death of me. Pull through, Tomlin. Fingers crossed, Miles. I hope you are right and everybody else gets to eat some crow. But offense has to start performing and figuring out ways to move the football. Here's a couple of options when I was watching the game. Why not throw to these wide receivers immediately on the line of scrimmage when the defensive backs are playing 10 yards off of them? Because it's a one-on-one situation with a chance to get 8 yards. Minimum. Every time. Don't know why we didn't go to that. Early in the second half, we went to a quick slant play to Austin. Worked great. Why didn't we do more of that? Why didn't we work the tight ends a little bit more outside of Freiermuth's touchdown, which was an incredible grab and rip out of the hands of the defensive player? Great play. Heck, Joey Porter Jr. should have had an interception on their last scoring drive that gave them the touchdown off of our turnover. That should have been turnover. Joey Porter Jr., if he catches that ball, that could have changed the game. So lots of little aspects of this game could have been changed going either way. Miles, I'm thinking about getting tickets to the draft in Pittsburgh, but the standing would kill me. That would be absolutely fun as hell to watch a draft in Pittsburgh. Just be sure to take your cell phone so you can watch my YouTube channel when I'm talking about it. Miles, Arthur Smith and his toss plays makes me want to eat crayons. Funny enough, though, we were getting more yardage off of toss plays than running between the tackles overall. I mean, that toss play did lead to the fumble, but overall, we were getting our production off of the toss plays, getting the ball on the edge outside of the teeth of their defense. Tomorrow, Steeler fans, schizo seesaws concerning Najee. You are right, Stryker. It's not fair to Najee, but Warren, when healthy, should have the last couple years been getting equal touches as Najee. I think they've been doing a good job of using the both of them. And that's the problem with Warren. He hasn't been healthy. And that's the other aspect that I forgot to talk about, too, with Najee Harris, his durability. He is an absolute stud. How many games has he missed due to injury so far in his career? Anybody want to guess? How many games has Najee Harris missed because of injury in 4 years? 0. He hasn't missed a game because of injury. He's been banged up with, with walking cast, with walking cast and boots on at the beginning of weeks, comes back and plays in the game. He is durable as hell. And right now, I think that's really the only difference, Robert, between the carry numbers between Warren and Najee. It's just because of Najee's durability and Warren getting banged up, bringing him back slowly, making sure he's 100% before they start putting him out there. Those are the types of things you can do to make sure you have a complementary backfield. And I love it when it's a complementary backfield. And I love all three of them. I love Patterson as well. Absolutely love Patterson as well. Nice problem to have. John, how you doing over there, Ron? Tomlin almost always hires his buddies or people he worked with before. His best coordinators are ones he didn't hire. Arians, LeBeau, and Haley. Haley was technically a hire. But yeah, he was given LeBeau and Arians. Arians he promoted. Arians was a quarterback's coach under Tomlin, and he promoted Arians to an offensive coordinator. That's why you can make an argument off of Arians being underneath of either Tomlin's or Cowher's coaching tree. I personally give it to both of them because for some reason Chuck Noll does not get listed as having the great black coach of the Colts and Tampa Bay, Dungy, does not get listed as having Dungy on his coaching tree, even though he gave Dungy his first coaching job. Why? Because he wasn't a coordinator underneath him. So there's a lot of back and forth. Some people are like, oh, it's Cowher's coaching tree. Oh, it's Tomlin's coaching tree. Hell, give it to both. They both used him in different capacity. He got better. He became a head coach because of Tomlin. He wouldn't have become he would not have become a head coach if he left the coaching tree from Cowher when Tomlin took over. If Tomlin decided not to promote him. So give it to Tomlin for at least giving him that promotion. I think that that's a good play on his part, understanding that there are some smart people in that room that he could have retained. Yeah, unfortunately, bringing in the friends hasn't been working. Has not been working in the long run. Though we have had some great offenses with Haley. That was our last great offense. We had some great offensive productivity here until this last game. Our last couple games without George Pickens. We look damn good. So we'll have to see if we can return to that. Miles, I feel really bad for the Lions. Their injuries are so detrimental. They deserve to represent the NFC this year in the Super Bowl. I agree. And I hope they still do because they are playing possessed. Their backups are still getting out there on the field and making plays. So kudos to their organization, their coaching staff, their drafting, their GM for bringing in great free agents as well. That trade for Goff for their old quarterback, he seemed like a throw-in at the time with all those great draft picks that they got for giving up. And sure, Rams turned that immediately into a Super Bowl and they looked like geniuses for it. Now it looks like Detroit's turned that trade into a dynasty. They're going to be good for years to come. They're young and they're good. And Goff is the right guy to move that team. That's a nice trade and worked out phenomenally for Detroit. Robert, Miles is right about Steelers D missed tackles as usual. Yep, can't blame Steelers O's causing Steelers D being tired when they also missed plenty of tackles in the first quarter. I agree with that. I don't think they missed as many tackles in the first quarter as they did in the second quarter, obviously. But they were doing a good job, even though they'd like miss a couple tackles too quickly, and what looked like it was going to be a negative loss or a stuff turned into a 2-yard gain. Those also get counted as missed tackles. Those occurred in the first half and the second half as well. So, those types of things happen in football games. We did have too many in that game, and I will agree with that. Corey, the thing that annoyed me was those 2 back-to-back takeaways, which we took the crowd out of at that point, but only got 3 points out of it. Yeah, it sucks to get that one-sided penalty off of a guy that connected with 6 punches. Sucks. It's the way it happens. Slay's going to get penalized this week. Slay's going to have a big fine this week. And I don't know if he's going to get suspended for it because he landed about 5 or 6 blows on the reverse angle. Take a look at it, guys. See if you can find it. Miles, I'm confused as how Najee fumble was a fumble because he never actually caught the ball. Yeah, technically, I think that was listed as the fumble on Russell Wilson. Now that you're saying it, I think you might be right on that. I mean, don't get me wrong. It was right in his hands and right in his breadbasket, put perfectly by Russell Wilson. But I think since the ball was tossed, it wasn't a pass, though. But yeah, I think when it gets in that situation, if the ball is tossed, it can be on the quarterback. And the quarterback might have gotten the target for the fumble. It would show up in the stat sheet, I know, on the box score. I don't have that up currently. Miles, poop. You're right. I can't go to the draft now. I can't miss the draft show special. It would be sacrilegious. Do what you want. Please go to the draft. For Steelers to being able to host the draft, that would be awesome to be able to watch it. Hell, I'll see if I can take the RV into Pittsburgh and run the draft show from there this year. That would be fun. Robert, without George in the game, it's pretty clear the Steelers' offensive MVP is not Russell, but is instead George. Boz, it's overall Steelers MVP, and we could debate about whether or not Cameron TJ is the third. Yeah, no, you say that, and I can't disagree with that. I like what you're saying. I like what you're saying, my friend. Robert, we saw Justin Fields injured because he had to come off the bench cold. But if they would be giving him at least 1 series per half, then he'd be warmed up and not coming in cold. Though it looked like that series, Robert, they looked like they were going to give that entire series to him. Steelers were not moving the football. On that one play, they ripped off 8 yards. And it was in a situation where I did not expect Fields to be on the play. It was like first down. Yeah, it was first down for that series. Right around the 40-yard line, 35-40. And he got good yardage. So that could have ended up being an actual complete series for him. But I see what you're saying, not having him come in the first half. Hell, I don't think he had a situation to come in on short yardage on the first down. We never got to a short down and distance chance in the entire first half, it seemed. Thank you, Curry. Appreciate that. Robert, John Pittsburgh, absolutely correct that Tomlin's hiring buddies is the problem. Steelers sucked their first 36 years because some of that problem, which Noel and Cowher didn't have, but Tomlin does. Though Noel was buddies with LeBeau, and that just ended up working out. That's a good buddy to have. Miles, do you think Elliott will play this week? Let me check his injury again, and I'll give you my assertion. Elliott's injury this week is a hamstring. Hamstrings are tough. Right now, he did not practice today. Tomorrow, I'd be able to know better whether or not it looks like he's going to be playing to see if he is limited at all or he gets a chance to practice. I am one of those few people that doesn't mind if he can't play. We still have Edmonds. We still have KZ as backup safeties. 2 starter-capable backups coming in for Elliott. Though Elliott is playing phenomenal football. I think right now Elliott's playing the best of the 3, but it's nice to be in a situation with 2 starter-capable backups behind your starters. Like, that is very rare in the NFL. Absolutely rare in the NFL. And very deep. Nice to have that type of player there, too. I mean, even Pierre. Pierre was starting at Washington there for a year or two before coming back to us. So you have some situations where you have, Sutton was starting for Detroit at their outside corner position when he left on that big contract. So you got starter-capable players behind the starters. Preston Smith was a starter in Green Bay. behind the edge players. I mean, we have a nice 3-man rotation there at inside linebacker as well. Adams used to be a starter capable coming in, backing up people. Starter for the Raiders. So we've got, and then we have a lot of, depth and a lot of youth that we've drafted ourselves that we're building up that play pretty well when we put them in there. So it's nice to have those situations where you have starters behind your starters. Defense, we have a lot of that. Offense, not so much. Offense, it looks a lot worse when we start saying, that we have a lot of depth on both sides of the ball. We have a little bit more depth at offensive line because it's from our drafting, not because they're starters, other than our quarterback. To have 2 starters as your quarterbacks, that's really nice to have. Tight end, we don't have that alignment. Don't have that at running back either, except Patterson did used to be a starter for a time. And then wide receivers, Williams was a starter a while ago. Other than that, yeah, the other guys are more situational guys. Yeah. Robert, I never said Fields should only be used in short yardage. No, that's a me thing. That was a me thing. I don't agree. I'm saying that Fields should be given the entire drives, even at midfield. And it looked like that's what I'm saying, though. I mean, that was my stance on it. Agree completely. But it looked like on that drive, it looked like they were going to give him a drive. Came out on the first play on first down, got 8 yards. That was not a situation. I'd expect him to come out on third down or a short yardage situation. It was not that at all. It was a 1st and 10. So, yeah, it was what you're saying. And I wouldn't have been against it. Try to see if the offense can get some flare up. And kudos to Tomlin for trying it and the offensive coordinator for trying it, because our offense was not being productive at that time. So what do? You shake it up. You see if you can get something to go. We started to get something to go. Unfortunately, he immediately hurt his abdominal. Don't know if he's going to be available now for the Ravens. That would suck if he's not. One other thing I wanted to talk about from the game. I'm just going through my notes here because I pretty much got to just about everything. Wow, I've done a good job of working this in pretty nicely. I used to just go straight off of my bullet points before, only had to go in order. Now I just kind of work it in, see how it goes, come back to it if there's something I missed. Yeah, I pretty much got to everything. Yep. Moore had a bad game with the penalties, and that was like his first really bad game. We needed him to step up. He's not had – this has been his worst season, I think, out of his entire career being with the Steelers. I think he's been a really good, solid left tackle for us. He's making he's had some problem games against us, especially with Myles Garrett now. He used to own Myles Garrett, clean sheet Myles Garrett. Now he's letting Myles Garrett get some sacks on him. I'd like to see him be better, but he's going to be a free agent this year. We are not going to retain him. I have to say at least who played well last game. Hayward, Watt, and Highsmith, I thought played excellent games. I thought Fitz and Benton and Adams made some good plays. Joey Porter Jr., I did say he should have had that interception, but he did not have any pass interference or personal fouls. That's a bonus win for him. Good play on the offensive side by Muth. And it sucks that Fields got hurt. But this week, guys, 9-5 Ravens against the 10-4 Steelers. That's it. Win the game, we win the division. We can rest everybody. Lose the game, lose the division. We may lose the division, but we can start resting players too. As Robert correctly said as well. Oh, that's it. Yep, everybody had that out. Great. So that's all the time I've got here for Strikers Inside Slant. Please come on over to SteelerNation.com. Join the football forum. I know John in Pittsburgh is over at the football forum talking there. I'll get to your comment here too in a second before I sign off, Robert, so don't worry about that. We always have fun time discussing things. It's free to join. Come on over for the discussion. Stay for the fun. I posted Stryker over there. Join us on our social media at Steeler Nation for X, at Steeler Nation Com for Facebook and Instagram. Follow me at SN Stryker for the tweety tweets, the Instagrams, and the Tickety Talks to see what I'm up to. I've actually posted some pictures here. I was at some Renaissance fairs and working at Celtic Festival and had some fun in my garb. So you guys want to check that stuff up, you can over on the Twitter. Actually, I think I only put that on Facebook now. So sorry for that. You guys have to find me as G Stryker on Facebook. But that's all the time I've got on the show right now. Thanks for having me, guys. Let's go to Robert's last call here. Last show, you said Minkah had been a worse defensive back than Joey Porter this year, so we should give the two Elliott's or KZ more time at safety and give Sutton or Trice more plays at corner. I wouldn't give them – I don't think Trice and Sutton are able to shut down the opposing number one receiver the way Joey Porter Jr. has done consistently this season. Also would not start KZ or Elliott over, or even Edmonds over Fitzpatrick, because he did make some plays. He did come up in the running game a lot this week. He made a tackle in the backfield. He made a tackle at the line of scrimmage. There's aspects about Fitzpatrick's versatility that I like, so don't start putting those types of things in my mouth that I didn't say, because I won't do it for you, especially when you're also correcting me, my friend. And I appreciate the discussion as always. Love y'all. Good thoughts. Go Steelers. Freedom of speech. Always, my friend. Love you, Tamburo. And that's all the time I have on the show. I am Steeler Nation Stryker, along with Robert Tamburo, rooting along with you as always.